Get ready to rumble, the podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the podcast with hot rodent-on-rodent action.
Ooh, did that happen at some point?
Well, I'm painting rodents, and then I'm painting a lot of Skaven.
Okay. So you're contributing the hot rodent-on-rodent action.
There's a lot to unpack here. Only 30 seconds into this episode, but yes, Skaven.
Yes.
Welcome to Trapped Under Plastic. I'm John. That's Scott. We're your hobby painting best friends. Whether you like it or not.
We're gonna force ourselves on you.
We're also we've just found out we are experts in wrestling.
Yeah,
Professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Professional wrestling, WWE wrestling.
Were you one of those kids that watched wrestling as a child?
No, I grew up in the era of was badass wrestling, where it was the NWO came out. So the New World Order, where all the bad guys got together and made this new bad supergroup.
Okay.
And that was a badass era of wrestling.
This is the MCU before the MCU. I just realized.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they all come together.
Wait. So yes, you were into wrestling.
I was into it, but not as much as like the kids that are into it. If you know people that are into it,
Okay.
I was not one of those.
Okay.
But like,
it wasn't your identity.
yeah, before we started recording, we got onto wrestling because you asked a random question about John Cena out of nowhere. You're like, is John Cena a good guy?
I mean, I've seen him in movies acting, but like I saw a weird clip where everyone was saying he sucked to the theme of his theme song, like to the melody of it.
John Cena sucks.
Just like that, but the whole stadium, and he was walking out like, "Bring it!" And I was like, "Oh, okay, he's like the hated guy."
Yeah, they call those guys the heel. The heels are the bad guys that everyone gets pumped up about. But John Cena's not a heel; he's a face. Face is a good guy.
Okay.
You know, and then the heels and the face. That's the drama. That is why this is soap operas for boys. Like that is it. And he's a face, but like he's too goody. You know, like he's the guy that is like does no wrong. He's a Captain America, right? And if you're that good, like you just piss. People are just annoyed at that, and so you're gonna get the John Cena sucks. Now that is my surface level understanding.
Okay, I appreciate the wrestler lore.
Right, that's as deep as that pool goes for me.
Should we add a wrestler corner to the podcast episode,
brother?
Next week we talk about Hulk Hogan. After that, talk about the Undertaker.
Well, yeah. You said your favorite wrestler is
the Undertaker. So back in the day when we filmed the Drunk Mini Painting episode, I gave us fake wrestler names. And the name I gave you is Johnny Tsunami.
Johnny Tsunami.
And it turns out that's a real fucking wrestler.
What?
Yeah. I show him in the video when I say Johnny Tsunami. But yeah, I don't know.
Who were you? You were the Noodler, weren't you?
I don't know.
I feel like
the Fiddler, the Noodler, whatever the fuck.
I think the Noodler is the greatest fucking name. You'd be a great heel as the Noodler.
Thank you.
I love your arms just coming at you from all angles. You're like the fucking dull seam of the WWE.
God damn it, John. Take me seriously.
No, you can wrap those arms all the way around you.
I love it when you like give me an underhanded compliment and then backpedal to try to like ensure me that no, this is actually a good thing that you have noodles for arms. Fucking hey guy,
you're just like a macaroni art project of a man. But you like interesting. Oh, I got more fun facts about wrestling. Did you know, especially in the 90s, they probably still have them, but they had managers for wrestlers. Okay, so they were actual characters. Yeah, you know, they'd come out with them out to the match and they do stuff. Do you know what the Undertaker's manager's name was?
Guillermo.
People that are listening right now that know this are screaming it into the microphone right now.
Is it?
They don't have a microphone, but if they had one, they would be screaming into it.
Okay.
And they're typically like so on the nose silly, but the Undertaker's was the best of all time. His manager's name was Paul.
Okay.
Paul Bearer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, first name Paul, last name Bearer. He's the fucking Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
And he comes out with a fucking urn.
Yeah.
And he's a fat 50-year-old man that they put on like a little bit of like white concealer or something on his face, so he's super pale and his hair is black and a comb over, short. He's not a wrestler. He's not anything to worry about.
He's a sidekick.
He's a sidekick, but he's the manager, and he'd speak like a raspy, like willowy, like, I'm gonna get him if the Undertaker gets his hands on you.
Okay, you said it was on the nose, and that's pretty fucking on the nose.
It was on the nose, so now you know a little bit more. I went back and forth as a young kid. The best. I'll fight you on this. The best wrestler. There is only one answer, and that is the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior was the pinnacle of steroids personified.
Okay.
This man was fucking muscles on muscles, just oiled up, just like tanned to perfection. And he didn't have a mask on, but he had like face paint. He had a sweet like long flowy 80s hairband mullet thing. He wore these like bright neon green and pink like tassels on his arms, and he had the long tassels on his long boots that were thigh-high boots, and he'd run down, and he was the strongest man alive. He was fucking ripped. He could like pick up anybody and throw them. He was my favorite as a little kid.
Okay.
And then when we got to the NWO era, you know, because he was kind of a bad guy too, the Ultimate Warrior. He was really rode that line because he was so roided up, you could never understand what he said. He just saliva. It looked like a feral dog whenever he talked. But he's kind of a bad guy. But back in that age, bad guys weren't like badass. They were usually just kind of like frumpy kind of fat dudes with a singlet on. But eventually you got to that NWO era, and then you had Sting. And Sting was the bad motherfucker. Also the face paint, you know, but he wore like a black fucking leather floor-length trench coat. He had a black baseball bat.
Didn't the Undertaker also wear like a long black trench coat? Okay.
Yeah, that's why they're both awesome.
Okay.
Right, yeah, so that was great because then he'd come out, he had a baseball bat. He'd be like, what? We can just bring weapons? It's part of his get-out, you know?
Did he use it?
Oh, fucking yeah. Yeah, he'd fucking hit people with a baseball bat. And we're like, there's no rules. There's no rules. I mean, he wasn't the first guy that brought weapons as part of who he was. That was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan from the 80s had a 2x4. And he'd bring out a 2x4. Sometimes he'd have an American flag that was on the 2x4, and he'd wave the 2x4 with the American flag. That's fucking American as it gets right there. I'm going to beat your ass with the American flag.
Okay, listen. Earlier, I asked you if you were into wrestling. The answer was yes.
Okay.
Fuck yes. Resounding yes.
Now,
who the fuck are these people? Jim Duggins and his 2x4?
Jake the Snake Roberts is another interesting fellow.
Okay, we're done. We're moving on to some other off-topic Preamble Ramble topic.
Do you know what Jake the Snake Roberts, his prop was?
Was it a boa?
And it's a boa constrictor.
Holy shit.
It was a big fucking snake he had on his shoulders.
Was it real?
It was a real fucking snake.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, there was no PETA in the 80s. Fuck that. They were just like, bring him out. Now, he didn't actually use this snake to hurt people, as far as I know. But if he ever did, that's badass.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, just like a guy's, you beat up a guy and then they're fake passed out. You know that thing in wrestling where they're like, oh, I'm so beat up, I can't get up? That's a thing.
Snake attack.
Yeah, you just throw the snake on him, and the snake slowly constricts his neck. That was like, yeah, you can only do that once.
You know what mini painter could go toe-to-toe with you about wrestler lore and background?
Oh, really? Who?
Sam Lenz.
Sam, you know?
He's gotta be, you know?
Well, yeah.
He just seems like a wrestler.
Well, because Sam and I are the same age, so we also have the same like pedigree of understanding the coolness of the late 80s.
Pedigree.
Late 80s, early 90s pinnacle of wrestling. I kind of got out of being interested in wrestling right around the Rock era. I was still in high school at that time, but it was, you know, it wasn't interesting to me.
Okay.
You know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was cool. But he slammed beers together and then drank them. But he drank beers like Cookie Monster eats cookies. He would smash them together and he'd hold them in the air like 18 inches above his head, go, ah, and then it just
fall on him.
It just fall all over.
Yeah.
And it's like sweaty. It's so sexy. Fuck, this wasn't even something we wrote on the preamble.
I regret asking the John Cena question.
Okay, okay. Let's move on to action.
Let's move on. I played a little game, Dune Imperium, lately. It was a mega version, so there are many expansions for that game, and there's like 2 different versions of the base game itself, and we put it all together. And normally the game ends at 10 VP. We went to 12 VP.
Holy shit.
It was so fucking epic, and there were so many things you could do. And there are whole parts of the entire game that you just don't even end up touching, just because there's so many options, and there are so limited like actions you can do to get to the end goal. It was amazing.
It sounds like a 36-hour game.
It actually wasn't that long. A lot of the expansions give you other opportunities for earning points. And so there was like some turns at the end where players were earning 4 points in a single turn out of 12, you know? And so
wow.
It actually went pretty quickly. But I realized, so I don't know if you know this whole debacle with Dune Imperium But there is a version of Dune Imperium called Dune Imperium Uprising, which is its own game that's about 90% similar to the original Dune Imperium.
Is it like them trying to like condense and make them more palatable?
No, it has actually more mechanics in it. I think it's a little bit tighter rule set wise, but it has more stuff in it. And so the first 2 expansions they released are compatible with Dune Imperium, like 100%. And then I bought one at PAX called Dune Imperium Bloodlines. And I discovered that about 60% of that is compatible with the version of the game that I have, but 100% is compatible with this newfangled version.
What the fuck?
It's so fucking annoying. It's actually so annoying.
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, I can't use like a massive chunk of this expansion because I just have this like slightly older version of Dune Imperium. It doesn't have like these other extra mechanics. It was very sad. But we used the portion that we could in my buddy Curtis's other 2 expansions, and the fucking board was just littered with cardboard, and it was glorious.
You need like a 10x6 table to get all the shit on it.
It was a lot of shit. I don't know how big the table was, but it did fit it all, and snacks. So
okay. It's just I picture it in my head the same way when I played the Firefly game. Have you ever played the Firefly game?
No, but I've seen it.
My buddy kickstarted it and we played it. This was years ago. We played it 3 or 4 times, and it was like we had to go to the game store to play it because we did not have enough actual surface areas.
Dude, I fucking love a massive, crunchy, 6-hour board game. I don't know where you stand on that, but I love just sitting down knowing that I got nowhere else to be for the next couple of hours, and I'm just gonna try to figure out that narrow path forward. Like, what's the strategy? I love figuring that out.
I love that for RPGs, tabletop RPGs. Mm-hmm. And I do enjoy it for cooperative games. Like if it's a competitive one, and then like, well, 6 hours, somebody's gonna be upset by the end. And here's the thing that I've learned about me is we played Azul again this Wednesday.
Oh, Azul is a great game.
Was that I play games with my wife. She reminds me that I'm an asshole.
Oh no.
I don't try to. She's like, you took that one so Drew couldn't get it because you saw that he needed it. And I was like, I actually didn't. But she doesn't believe me anymore because that's something I would do. And I'm like, but it's a game where you're trying to win, and part of winning is identifying the things that they need so they don't get the points, so they don't win. And it's like I'm the bad guy. I'm I'm the bad guy in the movies, and I'm Skeletor, and I get that. I'm content with that. She is not.
So that's an interesting question in board games. Like, are you willing to like let go of a portion of your own strategy to slow down another player? I find in a lot of games that I play, it's often just detrimental to you both to do that, and it's not like an actual good thing unless you're both building a similar engine strategy and that particular card or component is just good for both of you. Then of course you'd fucking take it.
Yeah,
but are you the kind of player that will go out of your way to fuck with someone else?
Oh yeah. So the process you're talking about in Magic is called hate drafting. When you're drafting a deck for Magic in Limited, you will take a card out of the pack that you know you're not even going to use in your deck because if somebody else, they have the right deck for it, is really powerful. So you want to make sure they don't get that card.
Yes, that would be an example for sure.
So you're not actually helping yourself. You're just purposely kind of just like cock blocking somebody else.
Yep.
No, I don't do that.
Okay, then you're good.
I don't do that. But in a lot of games, like it's a legitimate like part of the strategy of the game. Villainous is a great example. Like you can affect other villains.
Yes.
You have to slow them down.
There's a whole action to draw out of their deck to slow them down. Yes.
Yeah,
100%. That's part of the game.
To stop them from winning because you realize you're all playing your own game and running your own race. And if you see someone's far ahead of you and you're like, well, I can't just try to run faster to get past them. Another lever I can pull is to, put the stick in the spokes of their bike, right? And that's a part of the game.
Yeah.
There is a level of that in any game if you look deep enough. Not any game, but most games.
Some games have it built into a mechanic.
Yes.
And that's an example of that. Some games just have like a pool of available resources and you just taking something you don't need.
Yes.
That is not the same thing exactly.
Like in Wingspan.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, yeah, they need a bunch of worms. They're hard up for worms, and if they get a bunch of worms, whatever.
Yes.
I could use worms. Anyone can use worms. Worms are universal currency. So I'm gonna take the worms. Do I need them have like a ton right now? No, but I know you do, so I'm gonna take the worms. That's how I play games. Okay.
Okay.
What I have to do is I have to like turn a bit of my brain off, like proactively, to not do that. And I feel like everybody has more fun when I do that, but I die inside just a little bit. I'm just like, I know I couldn't. Or like what I'll do is like actively like make my mind wander. I'll be like, oh, what do I need to paint tomorrow to stay on track?
Wow.
Like I'll actively not pay attention. That way I'm not, because if I look and I watch your turn and I watch their turn and it gets to my turn, I have now taken in information and I am going to utilize that information. If I don't do that, if I only pay attention on my own turn, then I can't do that. So I found myself I had to do that in Azul. I was like, well, now I feel like I should be an asshole because you're already claimed I'm an asshole. So, and I'm like, nope, let me think about other stuff and not do that. So that's my trick.
On my turns in board games like that, I just imagine that I'm playing a single player game. And I'm like, okay, I did this turn. My strategy is to be here by this point. What are the steps I need to get there? I need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, what do I do? If this option is taken from me, I do plan B. And so by the time it gets to me, I know what I'm doing based on the board state, based on what's going on. And other players can affect that. But I'm never going to make a choice because it messes with someone else exclusively. I will only make a choice to advance my game plan because I believe it's the strongest and best and fastest and whatever. So that's what I'm thinking about on my off turns, my next play, based on what my overarching strategy is. And that's enough to like keep me occupied most times.
And it depends on how well, I guess, I know the game.
Sure.
If I know the game. If I know the game inside and out, it's like I can go through that process quick, and then I got all this other time to see what you're doing over there.
Sure.
What you doing over there, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, what a good thing you brought up games, and Azul came up because we played Azul again this Wednesday. When Drew's over to watch TV, we're finishing up fucking Cobra Kai. We only have like 3 episodes left, and the entire series is over. And I'll be a little bit sad. We just had a great episode. It just reminded me how much I fucking love that show because it's so bad. And we played Azul because I can't remember if I brought this up or not. At Adepticon, Drew is signed up to compete in the World Series of board games.
Oh, cool. Like for Azul or all
games? It's a madhouse. 16 possible games.
Oh, wow.
So he's trying to get practice. Dune Imperium is one of them.
Ooh, what are the games? I kind of low-key would love to play this.
So it's 16 games, and every year they rotate out like 4 to 7 of them, I think.
Oh my God.
So there's new games are always added, but like it's not a wholesale switch. And so you sign up for this, and I guess if you like place so high, you go to like Worlds or something. This is one of like there's like 3 or 4 regional World Series of freaking board games.
I had no idea this was a thing. That sounds so fun.
So Drew is like he's like getting practice in all these different games. And I love Drew because he's the guy you want to play any game with because he's laid back, he's happy, he just enjoys it. He's not a jerk, whatever. He's not the cutthroat that probably he needs to be to win the World Series of board games, but he's just excited to just play all these different games. Mm-hmm. And so Azul is on the list. Okay. So we played a number of games Azul over the last month or 2, and I've told him my cutthroat strategies. I'm like, all right, Drew, here's how you win this game. And he's like, okay, yeah. He's like, yeah, I know I could do that. But he's like, no, I just want to have fun. I'm like, God bless you. God bless you. He's just like, he was like, whenever like ethereal form was squeegeeing us into these little fucking cookie molds to make us all individual gingerbread men in this universe, they used a totally different mold than me and Drew. And that's why we get along so well. So he's just a different cat.
Yeah, I mean, you call him Jesus for a reason, right? It's not
he is
not just the hair.
He is Ginger Jesus. Yeah, he would like. He also loves alcohol, so he would turn water to wine if you let him, if he had the ability, and he would share it. You know, he would be healing lepers left and right. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people would do that if they had the ability.
Yeah. So that also was not on our list.
that was my Preamble Ramble, the Mega Dune Imperium.
Yeah, we checked one thing off the list. This is. I want to take a little step back before we continue.
Not a little step back. We're already 15 steps back. This is another step back.
A little step back in the Preamble Ramble here. Give a little context of where we are, what we're doing today. this is being recorded like 4 or 5 days prior to when I leave for Adepticon. Scott will leave a little bit later. So this is actually recorded before Adepticon happens, and this episode is going to come out like the Monday right after Adepticon. So we're in this space where we're all pumped for the live show. We're all planning for the live show. We got all the hype of Adepticon is mounting, but we haven't experienced anything yet. But you're experiencing it on the other side of the rainbow, and so we're having a chill day. We're gonna have a lighter main topic. We're just gonna hang out and have fun, and try not to add more complications to the top plate when we got the biggest live show of all time for Trapped Under Plastic, right?
Yeah, it does seem like it's shaping up to be that.
Yes, and we did all our homework. We're pumped about this totally new format. It's going to be run more like a live show than any one before, where we take an inspiration from a variety of different areas and still make it a fun audio experience for the listeners, for you goody peepees that don't come to Adepticon. So
yeah, I think that's the main thing. I think maybe we discussed this last time in a previous episode, but we are aware of the shortcomings of the live episode format of the previous years, about how that makes not an interesting recording, and so we are trying to improve that one quality of life thing, but also many other things as well. And we're excited to give it a shot and see what you guys think.
It was a good opportunity for us to like break this whole Lego Hogwarts castle down and rebuild it brick by brick. Which is kind of what we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we have the dungeons on top of the Wizard Spire.
Wait, what?
It's a Lego Hogwarts castle. We can rebuild it however we want.
The dungeons are in the basement.
Not anymore. You're like going up to Dumbledore's office and you like open the door and there's the giant fucking troll in the dungeon. He's like, "Argh!" And you're like, oh fuck, close that. It's a Hogwarts castle. It doesn't have to make sense.
Sure.
Let's see. Okay.
What you got here? You got paint drunk?
Paint drunk. Okay. There was a recent post on the Facebook group asking when Drunken Mini Painting is coming back.
Yeah, you wanna do the next one? You can do it on your channel and you can film it and set it up.
Yeah, that would be great. Also, I don't know if we're adults, more adults now. I don't know if we should just keep doing that.
Oh my gosh.
But that's not the purpose of this note in the Preamble Ramble that I wrote down. But it kind of made me make that connection. And I appreciate when people on the Facebook group put out stuff, because we do read it, and it's like, oh, things that people like and whatever. And I am not taking that off the calendar. This is never going to happen. And it's something for us to discuss and for us to plan post Adepticon. But what I realized is this week, it's Friday now, I've spent the last 4 days, Monday through Thursday this week, painting 12, maybe sometimes more than 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
At a certain point, usually around hour 10-ish, I get paint drunk. I've been painting for so long, and I get loopy, and I get oh man, it's just like, no, these creative juices are flowing. Maybe I should do this and whatever. And I'm like, no, John, you're dumb. You're drunk. Stop it. You ever get so, I think it is not necessarily just related to painting, but you're so hyper focused on one thing for an extended period of time that your brain just kind of turns to mush. You ever experienced that?
No.
A long day of editing, or just feel like you've worked so long that you're just kind of whew, my brain just doesn't function well.
Yeah.
And it acts similarly to when you're, drunk.
I feel like that. Obviously, I do feel that after a long work day, but I don't start making strange decisions because of it. If I am editing under the influence or painting under the influence, then it absolutely happens.
Right.
I make weird. I can point to very specific moments in very specific videos that I can remember that I was editing while I was I thought it was funny at that point, but it's kind of just weird now. Yeah. But when I get exhausted from working, it's just kind of I just get shittier and shittier.
Yeah, I found that if you're painting under the influence, sometimes that's you can unlock
freeing.
the fucking doors.
Yeah, it's freeing kind of.
Yeah, it is great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm there with you on editing. Things are not as funny as you think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you make decisions. You're like, if I'm cringing at this when I'm just like scrubbing through this, first of all, I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to re-scrub through this whole thing to make sure I didn't have more of these moments. And two, like, if I'm feeling this, that means the average person is going to feel it way more. Because I think I'm funnier than most people think I am. That's what I've learned in life. So, yeah, that's a dangerous road. But yeah, I just was like, oh man, I didn't realize this. And then every day, also when I paint that long, I feel like my self-control and like my expectations of quality and stuff go down.
Yes.
Too.
Oh my gosh. Yes. 100%. I felt that so much. And I think I mentioned this in this most recent video. It's like when I am painting near the end of the day and I can feel like I'm within striking distance of finishing like a unit or a step, I will rush to finish the step to fit it in the box of the workday.
Yeah.
And then I go to bed and I come back next day and it's like, whatever, it's early in the morning. And I just start picking up these models and I look for these tiny little issues. I start fixing these tiny little issues because I have all this runway now.
Right.
And so then I start refocusing. And so I was like, okay, if I want to really make sure I paint to the best quality possible as much, I should probably stick to 6 hours of painting a day. I feel like that's the sweet spot for me. I can do some emailing. I can do some other miscellaneous tasks. I can like work on some other video stuff. 6 hours is kind of the sweet spot for like where I start to get shitty afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's. I find that it absolutely is that way in a single day, but I've also found over time that it's the same way over the course of a long project.
Yeah.
The closer you get to the end, the easier it is to slide into that, no matter how many hours you've been painting that day. And I'm exactly dealing with that in this project right now, where I'm like, I have to really catch myself and slow down and reevaluate. And it's the reason why I typically start with, when I paint a big project, Golden Demon's a great example, I start the project painting the most important things first.
Right.
Usually not the most important thing is the very first thing you paint, because it's like you want to like get your painting muscles relaxed. You want to ease into like, what is the style? What's the approach? How am I going to use, glazing and punchy colors and all this stuff? Like get a feel for it in something that's still important in the piece, maybe the second or third most important piece. And then you go into the most important piece because now you're all warmed up and you have a lot of time to just take your time. As I'm getting towards the end of this. Right now, as we sit, I still have, I'm painting little rats that are going to be jumping off of the base and that kind of thing, jumping out of the tunnel. And last night I was painting some of those, and I realized I was rushing. So what I did was I put them down, finished a step, and I put them down, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start putting all the stuff on a table over here. Cleared off everything on the table, and I'm going to just start putting stuff on the table that I'm going to have to bring with me to Adepticon. Just a little break, just to be like, okay, it's related to the things I need to bring. Oh, I'm going to need to bring a couple wet palettes. I'm going to need to bring, here's the minis for my classes, here's whatever. Just mindless things, and I only did that for like 10 minutes.
And it's great to do that because what I find that if I imagine like, okay, I need 4 hours to do all those steps. And then I like hobby up until I have 4 hours left before I have to leave for Adepticon. Those 4 hours are insanely stressful.
Yeah.
And so if you just do this maintenance shit ahead of time, for instance, I don't know how I'm going to transport this Dark Eldar army. I'm probably going to have to put magnets in their bases. So I think Monday, next week, I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
So that I'm not fucking like, like trying to like finish it all and putting these in the case with like the glue still drying and they fall off and break and shit. So I think doing that now and then giving yourself literally as much pain time as you need after you finish all that shit is just like a great way to not be super stressed.
Are these on Cobalt Keep bases?
Some of them might be, probably not.
Damn it.
Yeah. They were like, I painted them so long ago, like
they're not.
the yellow and maroon.
Built.
Yeah, they weren't built with those bases yet.
Yeah, Cobalt Keep. Magnetic bases. Again,
They make it so easy.
They do.
Yeah.
And they're so much more reliable. So those of you who don't know exactly why those work so well is because they're the same sizes as GW bases, but on the bottom they have like a bullseye shape where it's a thick piece of plastic that's the size of the magnets that are included, and then that thick piece also has like rods that go out that's all flush at the bottom of the base, and so the magnet fits in there, and so when the glue hits it hits it on the side of the magnet as well as the bottom. And that's the problem I've found with magnets breaking off or whatever, is that it's only adhering to the bottom, and the magnets are the right size. Put in a drop of glue,
holds it flush to the
flush.
Yeah, it's not up a millimeter or two. It's like right where the end of the base is, so it's touching metal like directly.
Yeah, so much easier to knock them out and get all the magnets in, because magnets are included. All right, Kobolds Keep's not a sponsor, but maybe they should be. Let's see. Let's keep it moving here.
Let's keep it moving.
What do you got here? Star Wars RPG.
Yeah, we played another Star Wars RPG, and it was the last one where Dan was our DM, and we took some of your advice. You mentioned a thing called I think it's called the Skill Challenge.
Yeah.
Yep. So we co-opted something from, was it Pathfinder or an old edition of D&D?
It would be D&D 4th edition.
D&D 4th edition. And if you don't know what a skill challenge is, it's basically like, here's this narrative moment in your story, and we are going to basically dissolve it down into a series of relevant skill checks. And the situation was we had to escort a pirate, his name is Hondo, through an area of town where he is not liked. And so we had to each go one by one and describe the action we were doing to conceal, to distract, to basically get him through this busy part of town not being discovered by some rival gang, essentially. And so it was fun. We all got to think about how like our set of skills are valuable and most important for this certain thing. We said what we were doing narratively. We rolled the dice to see what happened mechanically, and then we interpreted those rolls with the story as well. And it was a great structured way to make people think about how their unique character could affect this story, and not have it be about combat exactly, but get to flex our other role-playing skills a little bit.
Yeah, that's so.
It's good structure.
It is. It's a good. It is a good kind of a framework to just. We all understand the basics of what's going to happen here, and now let's just run this weird scene and let it roll out. And then whatever thing you chose to do, whether it was successful or a failure, it changes the situation. And then the GM describes how the situation's now changed, and that can help kind of spur the creative juices for the next person.
Exactly. Yeah, because it keeps just rolling and changing. And I also really appreciate the rule book, because it has these great descriptions of how you can use the various skills. So my particular character I had was good at lying. And I forget the stat for lying, but a way it suggested you use lying is by laying a false trail for someone to follow. And so like I had one of the players hand me something intentionally conspicuously, and then I immediately darted off into an alley. And then 2 guards from like the rival gang followed me, and I just dumped the item and I jumped out of a window, and they didn't know where I went. And so like they weren't there to see the guy as he walked through. And that was a usage of my lying skill. And
oh, that's good.
so I was like, okay, that's great. And so that was helpful for getting the juices flowing.
You're like awkwardly, loudly, you're like, shh, no, don't give it to me here. Somebody might see. Okay, I'll take it. I gotta go.
Yeah, I didn't do that. That would have been fantastic. I was like, just hand it to me really, really strangely, and I'll grab it and dart away. And then I guess that was enough to convince them. But that would have been funny if I did that.
It's just like an awkwardly shaped large box. You're like,
yeah, just like sweating. I started to listen to, I believe they're called actual play episodes of Force and Destiny. Have you ever heard of this format of podcast?
yes.
Just to like hear how other people play the game and how they interpret the rules and like what they take and what they leave behind. And that's really been helpful to kind of figure out like how far you can push this system and like what you can do with it.
Yeah, I find that listening to, even if it's not the same game system, if it is your same game system, great, because sometimes you can get a little bit more like specifics,
Yeah.
but like just in general, seeing how a game master approaches situations and how they kind of navigate things smoothly is really valuable, and you can soak some stuff in, and you'll be surprised in a moment. It's not like you write all this stuff down. You're like, I'm going to check all these boxes when I play next. But you'll like absorb things. You'll be in a moment, and it'll like, you'll make that connection. And you're like, oh, they did something like this, or it gives you confidence to just kind of go with it because you've seen it executed or heard it executed on someone's podcast.
Are you into those kinds of podcasts? Like, are you into probably the biggest one being Critical Role, probably?
I hate Critical Role. I actively despise that.
The immediacy.
I do like live plays. that is just I dislike it greatly because it's a bunch of voice actors that are masturbating for us all. Like they're just like, listen to me talk about this. Let us have these silly conversations because we can do funny voices. And it's so sloggingly boring and like, it's I don't particularly like that specific one, but I do like other ones. I like ones that are often sillier, or they're just like they're well written. And they're more like succinct. Like you can tell, like the greatest movies, if you were to have to break down their story into 3 sentences, you could. Really like obtuse, have to have 17 layers for you to figure it all out. Your players aren't going to pick up on all that shit, let alone some random person on the internet. And they pop into one episode in the middle of your campaign and it's not entertaining. And guess what? It never is with Critical Role. If it's not entertaining to like consume that 60 minutes, then it's not good. That is my opinion. It should be looked at as an exciting episode in a TV show. I don't have to know all the story, but if it's exciting there, then I know I'm doing something right. And then how you can connect those dots in a way that's impactful but easy to follow. That's what I appreciate.
So you think that an RPG should be like The Office? Each episode is kind of an anthology, and there are some beats that carry over from one to one, like Jim and Pam's relationship and stuff like that. But largely, they can be enjoyed as individual things.
If you're doing a long campaign, I think that's paramount.
Interesting.
I think you have each session that your players sit down in should be a fun, exciting, dramatic, interesting session in its own single experience. Because if you're like, this actually is not going to be super fun today, but guys, over the course of all these months, it'll collectively be more fun. That is bullshit. People are there to enjoy the time there, and let that one night be a fun night. If you think that people should, like, if they don't appreciate the grandeur of the whole spectrum of what you're trying to accomplish, that they're a buffoon, that's not how people work. I mean, you want to appreciate the moment for the moment, right? It's like there's a recent book series that I was reading, and all the reviews on it were the first 400 pages of the first book are a slog and like pulling teeth. But if you can get through those first 400 pages, the last 300 pages and then book 2 are really good. And I'm like, that just means it's a poorly written book.
I agree with everything you're saying. I do not like masturbatory storytelling and stuff and things that make you wait and wait and wait. But like, to continue with the TV show analogy, True Detective is not an anthology TV show. I think you've seen season 1, right?
Yep.
That every episode is gripping and captivating, but they're not anthology. You could not drop into episode 4 and really, really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
So why can't an RPG be like that?
Yeah, you can. You're absolutely right in that you don't understand all. You're a bit confused because you don't understand what happened before and why we're here where we are. Mm-hmm. However, you could still appreciate that, especially that first season of that show. You could drop in the middle of it and you would get the drama and you would get the intensity and you would understand the stakes or the crazy scenes, or when they're out by the fucking tree and they see all this creepy bloody shit and whatever. It's like, you don't have to understand the whole story to still be like, oh shit. And to appreciate the writing and to appreciate the pacing and all that. You can still appreciate that without having all the context, but you're right.
What do you mean by writing when it comes to an RPG?
An RPG?
Yeah.
The way that the game master tells its story through the world and through the characters in the world and how they interact with the players.
Sure. Okay.
Right? So if you make it, it's very easy to make the game so obscure that the players don't ever experience 80% of the story. It's something that's often done incorrectly because they don't get close to it enough. They don't interact with the key players that are helping tell the story enough, or they get these short snippets because the GM doesn't want to like show their whole hand. And I'm like, show your whole hand. They're not going to be engaged unless they know what's happening, right? In the original Star Wars trilogy, they learn really early what the terrible things, and you as the audience learn really early the terrible things that the Empire is trying to accomplish. It's not this big reveal at the end that the Death Star was set up to blow up a planet. Like they know that. And so give them more information, because then that gives them opportunity to come up with creative ways to try to solve that problem. It's very easy in RPGs to just have players go through the motions and not really feel the world is alive and these crazy things are happening, so that allows them to really make more decisions.
Yeah. Okay, so it's important to have small narrative beats that come up every single individual session to increase engagement and excitement in the world, but it's also important to maintain larger story beats to make each episode feel connected, and also like the players are building towards something bigger.
Yeah. As a good example, so last episode you talked about Dan running the space combat thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That has to work on 2 levels, and it sounds like it did. Number one, there's a reason why you're doing that within the game you're playing and the story that's happening, right? There's a reason why we've got to go from here to here, and we've got to get through this, highly volatile or hostile area in space. And it's important because it's the next step we need to accomplish based on the plan we decided to do, okay? That needs to make sense. And also, that space combat in and of itself needs to be fun and dramatic. Totally not connected to the story. We're here now. This needs to be fun. If either of those aren't, if you're not using both of those, you're not taking full advantage of the opportunity that you've set yourself up for. If you're like, I just want to have space combat in my game, I'm just going to randomly throw it in there. It's not going to feel as dramatic or as impactful on whether or not we succeed, right? Because we need to succeed, because we got to get this fucking guy out of here. And if the Empire and their big fucking Star Destroyers are coming down on us, we can't let them catch up to us. Now we got fucking, these little TIE fighters are coming after us. Blah, blah, blah. You understand the connection to the story, but also, that also doesn't matter if it's a silly slog that's not fun. It also needs to be fun. So that's those individual moments in that one session. You want people to after the session's over and we're all picking up our books and going back, we're getting ready to leave. You're like, holy shit, I cannot believe that you are able to pull that off and pull up at the last second and the 2 TIE fighters smash into each other. That's the fun. You're like, oh my gosh, memorable moments.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you got to have both if you're doing a long-term campaign, because you got to connect these episodes in your seasons. That's why I have come to, when I run D&D campaigns, I run them in seasons, because it's a lot easier for me to do an 8-episode season, to tell us a condensed, interesting, dramatic story in a season. And then that season, when we put 3 of them together, it becomes a trilogy. It's the whole arc of the whole campaign. If you try to start at episode 1, and by the time we get to episode 50, I'll have told my whole story arc without chopping it up into smaller little bits, I am going to veer so far off to get to that end point. It's so easy to get farther off. But if you can break it down and have this, there's this really interesting arc, and you create more drama and impactful moments from the trilogy that you're creating, as opposed to, one 12-hour movie that you can't write the whole script for, because you got the players, and that's the cool part about playing RPGs. They're going to make a change.
Right. Yes, the collaborative storytelling element of it all.
Yeah.
It is the best part of role-playing. I would agree 100%.
So since we're knee-deep in RPG Corner, I'll share my RPG Corner little tidbit. I don't have a lot because I haven't played again since the last episode, but we're playing on Sunday, so we're playing in 2 days. It's the second session of me running the Shadow Dark.
And all right, you mentioned that last episode.
Yeah, and I've learned some other rules. I watched some YouTube videos about it. And
I love that moment, dude, when you're knee deep in something and you're reading the book and you're watching videos and you're fucking absorbing all this stuff and you're just
absorption mode.
I love it. I love that.
I learned a couple rules that I was doing incorrectly, but it was fine. It didn't impact us, whatever. I'm like, and I came to some decision-making things and things I'm going to slightly tweak for our next session. One thing I learned about this game, and this is just kind of in a nutshell. I'm in a nutshell. What kind of nut is this? That I learned about this game, and I wanted to share with you why I enjoy it so much. And I don't know if your crunchy brain is going to like it or not. So I want to share it with you.
Well, I think when it comes to RPGs, I tend to soften the brain a little.
Okay, yeah, get it good and mushy. All right, put it through the bullet ninja or whatever.
Lobotomize yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so in this game, typically in fantasy RPGs, and you have a thief class, they're most commonly known. Some of the things that they can do is they can identify traps and they can disarm traps. Right? He's like, oh man, the fucking door's trapped. Oh, good thing I noticed that. I'm gonna disarm the trap.
Okay.
In this game, there is no disarm trap skill.
Okay.
And here's why. The thief can still figure out if something's trapped, or a magic user can use their magic to say, oh, it looks like there's some kind of magical trap in here. But they specifically do not have a disarm trap skill because they want you to think creatively to learn out how the trap works and to figure out how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, you may have access to a panel that will allow you to like fiddle with wires or levers and fucking ropes and shit. Yes, if you can identify that and you can figure out how that would work, you can do that. However, oftentimes, if there's fucking holes in the stone wall and you walk past this area and poison darts shoot out at you, well, I don't have access to ropes and shit. Why is there a disarm trap skill? And I was like, how do you disarm that trap? It's all case by case. So it's an example of what this game does. Is it purposefully does not just give you a keyword on a piece of paper that solves problems for you.
Yeah.
It wants you to use your brain and collaborate with your friends to come up with something. So, for example, if you're in this passageway that you have to walk down, and the rogue's like, whoa, there's holes at like shoulder height that run in lines on both sides. I know something bad's going to come out of those.
Indiana Jones, man.
Yeah, right? However, there's not a pressure plate. I didn't see pressure plates, okay? So I don't know how or when they're going to come out. How do we go about this, right? There's a number of ways you could do this. One of those ways is, okay, well, two of you guys you guys have shields. Why don't you stand on the outside with your shields out, and we all stand in a straight line, and we just try to walk through and let the shields deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. That's creative thinking.
Yeah.
That's not like a roll a D20, right? That kind of thing. So I learned about that, and there's a wide variety of things in that game that do that. What are your thoughts?
I love it. It is the whole fucking point of role-playing.
Yeah.
It gets role-playing away from what it isn't in my head, and that is a game. Like, oh, there is a thing. I need to apply my mechanic to solve that problem. It's like, no. You are the person in this scenario. What would you do if you were this person? You wouldn't be like, let me get out my disarm skill. It's like, no, you'd be like, I'm going to fucking die if I walk normally through this hallway. I got to do something.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of RPGs for me. And so, of course, I love that.
Yeah, you want to do that. You want to be like, okay, was there anything weird in that last room we were in? Or was that we could use? Okay,
yes.
There's a big table.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
You can use any solution you want to use, as long as it's creative and interesting and fun and it makes sense, any of it.
Yeah. That's my RPG corner story of the day.
I love it.
Story time.
So I think we both think that maybe the topic is going to be shorter, but I think it's not going to be shorter. So what do you think about moving on to what we painted right now?
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I got one more thing.
All right.
Because we don't often talk about news. And this isn't really news. It's just something I found out and then I shared with our Facebook group.
Okay.
Golden Demon Awards are at 4 p.m. on Sunday. A couple of years ago, they were at 2 p.m. Then they turned to 3 p.m. And now we're at fucking 4 p.m. on a Sunday. Let's be clear. The rest of the convention is like fucking done at noon.
Yeah.
It's so goddamn stupid.
I don't understand.
So disrespectful for anybody who has to fly or travel or drive more than an hour.
It's like a new convention center. They probably have the space, especially on Sunday. Why is it at 4?
What are you... It frustrates me to no end. And I'm even like, I'm going to go whether I'm up for an award or not because, I want to cheer on my friends and want to see who wins and stuff. But it's like... Vince has got to fly out. He's not going to be able to go. Ben is going to be cutting it really close if he can go at all. It's like you're setting this expectation. You as a company are saying, no, all of you have to leave on Monday. You have to stay an entire another night. Yeah. You have to leave the next day. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. That means I'm not going to get home till like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, to use some English slang, they are taking the piss 100% with that decision. It's ridiculous.
So that's all. I just want to complain about that.
All right. Let's discuss what we painted. The video that is going to come out this next Monday is just me painting more Dark Eldar. Shocker. This is the 6th week in a row that I have painted Dark Eldar, the 7th week in a row that I've made a video where I am painting 5 days a week. It's gonna, at the end of this is gonna be a very long 8 weeks. Normally, a YouTube channel that's a mini painting channel, at least, okay, my channel, I won't speak for anybody else. Every single video is not painting a thing. You know, it's like we're going to discuss a topic, we're going to do this other thing, and that gives you breathing room to paint something nicely, completely in a different video on a different week. You spend 3 days working on a shorter video. You spend 9 days, 7 days, 8 days working on a longer painting video. So to paint 5 days a week for 8 weeks in a row, and to edit those videos as well with me and Hattie, it's a lot, bro. It's a lot. I have never hobbied this much in a 2-month period of my life. So I just want to comment on that first. It's a lot, and it is amazing to see how much you can get done if you just fucking put your head down and do that. So when Jay was over, we finished a unit of Cabalites, and that emotion felt amazing. You know, it's like finishing a part of a large display model. It gives you a little bit of a boost. And the other thing about army painting is that when you finish that big unit, that feels good. And then you put it into the rest of your army and you see it alongside the rest of your army, and that also feels good. And the bigger the army gets, the more it feels good, the better and better it feels. And so my army is getting to this point where it is getting quite large. It's 50 models or more, which is already more than my Greyjoy army, and it's not even done yet. I have like, I don't know, a lot more models to paint. Not a lot, but a decent chunk. And so I was like, this week, I want to experience that again. I want to experience the feeling of finishing shit. And so I had this unit of witches that was close to being done. I crushed them. I had another 5-man unit of incubi. They were also close to being done. And I crushed that. And I basically gave myself 24 hours to paint. Just because I had to do a lot of stuff with moving house and whatnot during work hours. So I didn't have like the full work day to paint. So I thought that was kind of a good subject. Like what can you finish in 24 hours? And I was able to knock out both these units, and that's another 15 models that I add to my completed total. Actually 14, because I had finished this witch already, but whatever. And it's fucking amazing, dude. I get to put them all in my display cabinet. They look so fucking sick together. And it's awesome. I'm so hyped. And I love that I got to paint these Shadow War Armageddon conversions I did super long ago. It feels so good to have that Witch Squad done.
Yeah, just the uniqueness of these is also a nice change of pace from probably doing the Cabalite Warriors, where it was a lot same.
Yeah, mostly the skin suit on these people, a lot less armor, a lot more black, less cream, so definitely a different kind of feeling. And then the Incubi, I actually didn't realize how close they were to just being done. And so I just needed to spend maybe like 5 hours of my 24 hours to finish them off. Like they were super easy to get done.
The more of these individual models you get painted, the more I love this scheme.
Thank you,
army.
dude.
It's so good. And like, it feels like it's not as easily understandable when you were earlier on in the project, but the more that it's done, it's kind of like compounding visual like clarity for me as the viewer.
Okay.
Of like every specific accent little color feels purposeful. It feels like it fits just right. I love this olive green.
Yeah.
And you're like, but it's
kind
not
of like a military thing. Black cream and like this military green. It feels like a militaristic thing, you know?
Yeah. But there's a good number of colors in this army that if you had told me that you're like, okay, so the army is going to have a lot of cream, but then also there's like a desert yellow, but then also there's a lot of pure black. But then there's also a bright teal, but also there is an olive green. And I'm like, bro, you need to stop. No. But like when I look at it and the more I see how the colors are used, also there's a really bright ass chrome. Okay, you keep talking. You keep saying more colors. And I'm just like, fuck. But the way that you are purposeful for every little color and how you vary up how much of those colors are used is like, it allows it to feel cohesive, but to feel like there's a lot of like depth to the color scheme.
Thank you.
And I really, really dig it.
I think that's one of the biggest skills that I was able to transfer over from display painting, and one that I like to think about and like to talk about a lot, and that's like color scheme organization, I guess you can call it that. Like how you distribute colors across a model to make a pleasant looking paint scheme. I think there's a lot to that skill. I think comic book artists probably have a lot of knowledge in that category as well, like the people that color panels and stuff like that. Essentially professional coloring book artists. Hey man, that's what it is. I ain't gonna knock it because it takes fucking skill. It's the same thing that we do with these mini painting videos and models.
Yeah,
but I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing. The thing about it is I don't even care about 40K. I don't even care about the game of 40K. But like it is such an amazing feeling to see the army come together. It's the same thing as I'm sure as finishing a massive display model. We've discussed this before. But like I just feel like the more hours you spend, like the more that love and that attachment grows. Like I spent 100 hours just on the Razor Wing jet fighter, just in that one part. And like these guys all took a decent long time as well. And yeah, it's compounding endlessly, and it feels great.
Yeah, because I've never spent as much time on an army as you've spent.
Neither have I. This is going to be the longest I've ever spent on an army.
And when I look at it and I try to compare it to like when I did Boner Boys in like a week or something.
Yeah.
I was still happy with them, and I still look at that army, and I'm still proud of it, and I still think it looks cool. But I don't have the emotional attachment to that army as I feel you have or are going to have, especially when it's completed, to this army.
Maybe.
There's something about a labor of love that is in there that you put a bit more of yourself into it, and with thoughtfulness, and really in taking the time to enjoy it, even when it's not always enjoyable.
Right, and I really want to talk about that in this episode because I have so much to say about that, especially after my collaboration with Jay, because there's just so much interesting commentary comparing me and him in my comment section and in his comment section on his newest video, and it's so fascinating to me, and I want to talk about that in today's episode. But you have an amazing base here.
I got a big old base
that we should discuss as well.
Yeah, so this I think is the first time I've brought something from the Golden Demon piece here, because I've always been really fucking paranoid about bringing stuff, but this fits well into my carrying case. And the base is complete, other than I had to finish the little rats that are going to be bounding off of the rocks and all that stuff.
It smells pretty good.
Yes. Smells like a resin. Just get in there.
I don't know. I see a hole and I just want to sniff it,
Jesus Christ. You're not. I don't know.
Do I agree with that?
Right. Yeah. I'm just still trying to process.
It glows. Look.
It glows green. Yeah. That was a whole process. And when we get to the after party, which is the extended version of the podcast for our lovely, lovely patrons, I'm going to talk about that whole fucking crazy, scary experience of wiring up a base. It was a unique experience and scary. But yeah, this was a long process is what I spent all week working on, is because it's like, I just got to paint the base. But the base is a fucking ice cream sandwich where you got to like take apart the parts of the ice cream sandwich and paint all sides of the ice cream sandwich and then put the ice cream sandwich back together. And so it was so much longer. So this top part is a lid, and the inside of the lid is the ceiling of the tunnel with all the stalactites and all the rock formations and everything. So I had to paint the underside of the lid. I had to paint the top of the lid. I had to paint this like shelf that's coming off of the crumbling rock or whatever. And I got to paint all the inside, all the walls up until the ceiling, and the back, which I did a kind of a freehand of the tunnel going into distance faintly, and then did some little tiny rat eyes in there so you kind of can feel the depth of this tunnel goes on, the more the rat army is coming. Yeah, it sucked. It sucked because the whole time I'm painting the inside of the tunnel, I'm like, I know you're not going to be able to see almost any of this, but I got to paint it. But it was like really satisfying to paint that. And maybe I can get Alex some pictures to show now. I took some pictures of the inside of the tunnel before I put the lid on. So I'm like, at least I have documentation that it's painted well inside there.
Yeah, of course.
So that was like, it makes me feel good. But yeah, that's it. And hand painting.
Coming close to the finish line here. Where do you think you're at 100%? There is no 100% completion, right? You're going to paint up until the amount of time you have, right? So it's a time limit. It's not a checklist, really.
Right. So my goal is that by the end of the weekend, I have all 8 of these baby rats painted. I already have a good start those, and then this afternoon I'm going to keep cranking that out. And tonight Then I have all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and Wednesday morning before we leave free to work on the model as well as do the other things I need to get ready to go for Adepticon. So that's going to be at least 1.5 full days of painting that is just going to be refinements on Vizek himself.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing. Like, I am to the point where I'm like, yeah, I could spend another 100 hours on refining stuff on Vizek, but like, I'm also happy with how he looks. I'm just going to do things that I think are going to be the most impact, the best use of my time. And my biggest thing is like, I don't want to totally redo anything. I don't think anything needs to be totally redone, but I don't want to do things that are going to stress me out more, that it's like, oh, I made it look terrible and I got to fix it to pull it all back together under the short timeline. It just scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, you want to make little moves right now.
Yeah, it's going to be
nothing big.
So, yeah, that's me. That's me.
Awesome, dude. I can't imagine what that feels like, honestly, to have that big ass fucking model working on the same thing for so long and getting it done. It's gonna be amazing.
When I had him fully put together, when I assembled him, I was just like, man, I have not painted something especially this big, this good ever. And I was like, wow. Even when I look at like the big creature caster things I did, like the big dragon and the big demon, and I actually brought those out. They've been in my cabinet for a long time. And I brought them out and put them on the table under my lights next to this because I wanted to see side by side. I'm like, because they're big models, sizably comparative. And I'm like, I'm so much happier looking at it side by side to see that I've grown as a painter. And I think that's
amazing.
It's a big thing. It's like
absolutely
seeing how you have grown against yourself is all that matters, and you've improved and you've learned. And so that felt really good. And once I get him on the base, that's going to be the last big thing. The other, there's a little thing here too. When I put him on the base, the top of this lip is where his hoof goes. Yeah. And then this little nubbin over here is where his staff sits.
Yeah.
When that's all on and he's glued down, I might have to like put in a little bit of rocks or whatever. Like I did build it so he sits in there correctly, but like
you never know.
Yeah,
you gotta shore up some of those little tiny gaps.
Exactly. So that's going to be a thing too. And so I have to make sure I give myself time for that because that's going to be the very last thing I do because I'm not going to do more work on him while he's glued to this fucking base.
You're pinning 1 foot in, right?
No. I'm not going to pin him at all because his whole back skirt is flat and sits flush with his base.
Are you using epoxy?
Oh, I was just going to super glue him down.
Okay. I'm just scared of super glue because super glue is a brittle, strong connection. And if you get any kind of twisting force on it, it's going to snap right off. Yeah. But epoxy is a flexible connection. So if it gets jostled, it can take a little bit and bounce back. Like even the tiniest amount of torque, it'll bounce back a little bit. Whereas super glue, I don't want to scare you at all. Like super glue is probably fine, especially considering the amount of surface area you're going to have. Yeah. But I would just be terrified.
What do you mean by epoxy? What is he talking about?
2-part epoxy, the glue? It has a flexible bond to it. You know what a 2-part epoxy is?
Is this stuff it's like in the syringe that it's 2 separate things and they kind of mix together?
Yeah, and it's a glue, like 5-minute epoxy, 10-minute epoxy, or even like JB Wells, something like that.
Oh, I don't think I've ever used that.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's you know what I mean by like if you were to take 2 pieces of styrene, glue them together end to end, and try to pull it apart, super glue would be amazing. But the moment you did this, it would just snap. It's brittle, right? But with epoxy, you would break the plastic before you would break that bond because it has a flex to it. And so that helps with jostling, with travel, with large figs.
Okay, I got to go to Menards and get some 2-part epoxy.
Yeah, get some 5-minute. You could even do both. You could use the super glue to fasten it down, and then the epoxy will cure a little bit over time, and then that will provide you with your flexible bond.
How long does 5-minute epoxy
you get 5 minutes? Yeah, the longer the cure time, generally speaking, the stronger the bond.
But it doesn't probably need to be uber.
Yeah, it's a fucking plastic model. Yeah.
Also, if it gives you a little bit of time to reposition it on there too.
It does. You might even need to super glue because he just stands there, right? He doesn't. It's pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his whole skirt, the whole underside of that runs all the way around. So I have the whole outside of all the bottom side of plastic of the skirt. His one hoof there, and then a bit of the underside of his tail is flush with this rock as well. So he's got a lot of adhesion points.
Yeah.
So yes, he's not precariously perched.
Yeah. Just don't put too much on. Obviously, you know that because like it's gonna splooge out. It's gonna dry glossy. So
Yep.
Same thing with super glue. You don't want that frosting.
Yeah,
that'd be so bad.
Frosting is the worst.
I find that frosting
paint over top of that.
Oh, for sure. You can totally do that. But
okay, yeah, well, good. I'm glad that we did this before I glued it together, so I can go buy some 2-part epoxy on the way home.
Excellent.
Okay,
let's get into the main topic. We're gonna give you a little hobby personal update from both of us. We're both coming to the end of very long projects where we've invested hundreds of hours into finishing them, both different kinds of projects, but still long hobby investments. And it's given us some insight into how we approach our hobby, how we think about it, and stuff like that. And we want to discuss that, get a little personal with you.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Because sometimes it's good to kind of reassess where you are in your own hobby and what excites you, kind of going back to some of what we talked about last episode in Hobby Burnout. But trying to be proactive in that and finding that excitement and kind of setting yourself up for planning for that excitement. And yeah, like I just had a realization just in the last couple of days was that like I've been so knee deep in this and so hyper focused on this big project that like I have no idea what I'm going to do after this. And there's a bit of fear in that, or I'm just like scrambling. But in the hobby, there's always something. It doesn't take you too much effort to even think theoretically what excites you.
Yeah.
It isn't to be a tangible like this model or this army or whatever. And so I think that's
back to your samurai army, dude.
Yeah, that's one thing is like I do want to get back to that. And they did a showcase. It was I don't remember even what it was recently for Games Workshop, but it was very Eastern inspired. I don't know if it was a new Warcry warband or something. It's not out yet. It might have even been 40K something. I think it was 40K. Anyway, that immediately got me excited to kit bash those into more of my samurai custom faction.
Yeah, that model was great.
So I want to do more of that, and I want to bring like more variety to the faction, but still keep those certain themes, the certain aesthetic connection to those, which will maybe bring a whole nother interesting take on that. Because it's different to kit bash one model than it is to kit bash a handful that feel like they belong. It's then a new problem to solve. So that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
So that's on my short list. I'm glad you brought that up, but I 100% thought about that. Also, that video did well, and I'm excited to be like, oh, people actually enjoyed this kind of a thing, and which is cool because I really enjoyed doing it. So you can check a couple of boxes there.
It's always nice when the thing you're excited about aligns with what your audience wants to see in a video. You know, a lot of viewers, kind of think about YouTube in somewhat of a wishful way, which is a great thing. Whereas like the YouTuber can just do what they want to do, and that excitement will translate across the screen. And that is sometimes true, but not always true, right? Because sometimes YouTubers want to try out different things that's not typical for their normal format or subject, and that always doesn't, resonate with the audience, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. So that isn't always a reality of doing YouTube. You can't just always do what you want to do. There needs to be some kind of direction and focus. Sometimes.
And that's probably not a good, necessarily a tangible takeaway for the audience unless they're also YouTubers. But there is something there that would be helpful, and that is like we're finding, when we're talking about here is finding like a couple different layers or a couple different boxes you're checking that get checked from a singular project. So I really like the idea of kit bashing my own samurai faction. Also, I kind of like the idea of making a warband or wanting to try out Warcry. Okay, well here I get to like make my own and like, okay, which faction is this going to represent? Because it's got to work within the rule set of the game, unless you want to write your own rules for your own warband, which if you like that, then awesome, you can do that. You can figure out how this works. Or you can be like, okay, it's actually this Slaves to Darkness warband is who they're going to play. So these are the different kinds of characters and the different kinds of abilities or weapons that those characters use, and I can use that as inspiration to the different characters I'm going to then kit bash and build. So
yeah, we mentioned that last week where you can, when you're in the trenches of doing like batch painting, you can use the excitement about how the thing's going to operate in the game to kind of propel you through the paint job, or like the excitement about the background or about a conversion or about a new thing you're going to try in the paint plan, and that can often get you through a paint plan. It's a little bit more of a slog because you're painting the same dude over and over again. I didn't mean to derail us into YouTube stuff, but yeah, let's talk about the hobby. Let's do it.
I want to ask you, because we brought up your work on the Deldar army.
Deldar.
We are from the planet Deldar. This is the most models for a single army you've ever painted.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. I don't know what the final count is, but it's over 50 right now.
Okay, and you are closer to the end of the beginning. First question is like, how close are you to completion? And question the second, do you feel like this was coming out of this that has pushed you to have more excitement to do another big army project, or do you want to go the exact opposite direction or somewhere in between? How is this, you seeing the end of this experience, how's that set up to your launching point to the next direction you go?
Yeah. Well, to answer the first question, which is like, maybe how much further do I have to go?
Mm-hmm.
I have to finish 4 Raiders and a Ravager, and they're probably, I would say, 60% complete, all of them. Because there's a lot of detail work left. A lot of edge highlighting, a lot of weathering and stuff like that. And not to mention the 25 Cavalite Warriors that go in all of them that are also, they're like 30% done because the last step that I did kind of fucked them up a little bit.
Well, you know.
So,
but after doing more of those Cavalite Warriors, you probably have a little bit more experience under your belt recently, so you kind of have a direction of confidence of how to go forward on those. So that's good.
Definitely. So that's probably the biggest chunk. I have 5 Scourges, the winged guys left.
Oh, yes.
Those would be easy. Those would be very similar to Cavalite Warriors, both wings.
With a fun change of pace because they're a different model. It's enough different.
And then speaking of different models, after that, I have 15 Reaver jet bikes.
Oh, boy.
And that is all of it. And that's a decent chunk. That's not half of the army, but maybe that's like a quarter, maybe 30%. Because the Reaver jet bikes are kind of like 2 guys each, right? That's the bike and the rider. And there's 15 of them. So, yeah, maybe you can consider that 30 models and then 35 with the Scourges. And then the vehicles are big. They have 5 dudes on each one. So we are over the halfway point, but that's a decent chunk of stuff left. And, the Raiders are progressed. So it's hard to say where it is, but it's getting there.
But the Raiders, this is one of those times where I know you've been like, I did not get as much done on this project for this video as I was hoping to, blah, blah, blah. But it also means that, like, you've done a lot of work on those biggest pillars you need to still, complete.
Right. The big steps in the beginning, the really big time-consuming ones are all done, which is great. And so now it's just like about getting in there with the paintbrush, adding some edge highlights, adding some chipped paint, painting individual things, like concealing the decals more, like all that stuff, which that you tend to get like nittier and grittier and smaller the closer you get to the finish line. And so that's kind of where they are right now. I can't remember what your second question was, though.
As you transition with this object or this project being complete, how have you feel like this is like a springboard to another bigger army project, or you don't want to even think about that at all and are excited to do something completely different, or what?
I'm gonna have a little bit of a longer answer for that.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
So, to answer the question right away, I would very much so be open to painting another, specifically 40K army, or another army for another game. I love Sisters of Battle. I have a scheme that I really enjoy, and I have a bunch of the models, actually. And so I would not mind at all translating that to a full army. But just like with my video formats, the same is true of my hobby. I love variety.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this project for 7 weeks straight is not the best way to like keep me engaged in the hobby, because the hobby has so much to offer. It's amazing. It's actually one of the best parts about this hobby is you can really choose a lot of different ways to engage with it. And so if I were to do it again, it just wouldn't be over and over and over and over and over again. It would be a little bit here, a little bit there. Kind of like how I was painting the Dark Eldar before I went into crunch mode. You know, it's like a video every 2 months, or maybe a video every month, or like whatever it may be. So definitely still excited about that, but also excited about experiencing other parts of the hobby that I like. And the thing I want to talk about a little bit is, one thing that Jay is amazing at is that he is always excited and he's always joyous, and he doesn't really ever shit talk GW stuff. And, he's kind of like, he loves it. It's a thing he really enjoys. And, I'm not like that. I can't engage in 40K nonstop because I'm not like super enthusiastic about it. And I kind of feel like maybe you're a little bit similar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about the lore, and that in and of itself makes it real hard to care about so much of the stuff.
It does chop off one of those hooks you can like get into to really engage with something, and so I personally feel bad that I am not able to be as excited about this big part of our hobby that like everyone loves so much, Warhammer 40K. It's like I want to be that excited. I want to be another Jay, but the reality is that I just like to do so many different things. And so where I'm at in my personal hobby is like, I want to present the best version. I want to be the happiest that I can be. And what that means is diversifying things. But also at the same time, I see how what I'm doing resonates, and I don't want to disappoint those people. It's difficult to remove YouTube from my hobby because they're so linked. And so I am currently struggling with the idea of really chasing exactly what I want to do, but also doing what people really enjoy. And so I think the best answer here is a mixture. I think after Adepticon, my plan is to keep painting these guys at a slower pace, maybe one video a month, but also do things that I really love, like Star Wars, like Shatterpoint, like making a scenario for a Dune game, like painting a display model. Like I have this fucking amazing, the Goblin King from Spear of Mirabalis.
Oh yeah,
that I would love to paint, or the King Arthur one that I would like the little kid with the wooden sword. There's just there's so many cool things that I just cool video ideas to explore different topics, more science-based things, comparisons, so many things that I'm hyped to look at, and I just want to have more variety.
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. I think that one thing that we can, and we were chatting about Nick and Jay from Eons of Battle prior to recording here, and there's one thing that we kind of came to it's a pretty apparent conclusion about Jay is his just energy and passion about what he does. And I think that if you have the energy and passion and excitement in whatever project you take, that's going to fuel you to enjoy it and have a better time going through that process. But also from the side of you, like making a video out of it, that passion's going to resonate. There's other dumb shit about YouTube algorithm and crap like that becomes a more complex situation than just that. Sure. But just from a straight standpoint of hobbying, we have this thing where it's like, well, our hobby is just kind of viewable because we put our hobby out there. But it's still our hobby, and I think it's really important that it's like, I need to remind myself this sometimes, where it's like, it's still my hobby, and I should still do the hobby that excites me.
Absolutely.
And so in that way, we're all the same goody peepees in that go to where, at least to investigate something that really excites you.
Yeah, but I personally feel bad about feeling bad about the hobby. Like earlier you mentioned, like I painted the entire inside of this base and it sucked, like that kind of commentary, like I feel bad about saying and putting out into the world. I wish it was all just roses and like, it was just like, I love every second of this. But like when you paint 20 Kabalites in a row, it loses some of its luster. And I feel like that's realistic and that's reality. Right. And but I just feel bad saying it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is true of all things in life. There is no thing that you do in life where you love 100% of it. It's just the reality of the world.
Yeah.
It's like, well, John, what about an ice cream cone? Eating an ice cream cone. There's no bad part about eating an ice cream cone. Yeah, you had to pay for it. You had to give them money. And you had to hate what you had to do at work that week that gave you that money to buy that ice cream cone. So if we look at anything, if we want to be a negative Nancy about it, we can find some aspect we don't like. But we're like, well, it's sometimes the parts make the payoff at the end worth it because we knew it wasn't all wine and roses and simple and an easy walk in the park. We knew we had to struggle a little bit. We had to figure out things. We had to put in hours that were more hours that we didn't enjoy for this one monotonous step.
Yeah.
But the things that are the most fulfilling in life are the things that you work hardest at. It's like you're really proud about raising your kids and they're not felons. So it's just like That's not easy. That's a lot of shitty times with, and stressful times and paying the bills so you can make sure your kids got clothes and all. Like, there's a lot of things, but those things are the most rewarding. And I think mini painting is a microcosm of that, where it's not as dramatic and as life altering as some of those vital parts in your life. But if you know that you can go through it, and you had to plow through sometimes, or you really struggled, or this didn't look as good as I wanted because I was trying something new, or whatever. Those are all learning experiences, and that is how you got better. So next time you'll be a better painter on the next mini because of it. But also it should be something you take pride in, because if it was all super easy and could get done in 10 minutes, it wouldn't be as rewarding because anybody could do it. It's the difference between spending 100 hours on this amazing fucking Michelangelo wall mural, or just hitting AI generate Michelangelo wall mural and showing somebody on your phone the thing that AI made. Anybody can do the second part, but the humanity in creating something yourself is something in and of itself that is like, oh, it makes this hobby, the effort and sometimes the frustration and the stress or the whatever, you keep it within check.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy.
I think it is too. I think you need to do hard things in life. Like, you have to. I think the sense of accomplishment you get is amazing from doing those things. But the reality is that they're difficult.
Yeah.
It's in the name, right? And I don't know.
Yeah,
It's challenging because, like, I'll see comments that, like, ask questions like, does Scotty even enjoy what he's doing? And it's like, fuck, I mean, like, I'm not even interested in playing the game. I'm just doing it for the painting. Like, of course I'm interested and I love it. But the reality is there are parts of it that aren't as exciting as finishing a unit of 20 guys. It ebbs and it flows. That's the reality. And I don't want to pull the wool over your eyes and say that doesn't happen. But at the same time, I also want you to understand the excitement along with the process. And so I'm in my head, as per usual, about this shit.
But I think what that does is it does a good job of helping others that are going to try a project as well.
I hope so, yeah.
'Cause I think a big issue that a lot of us have in this hobby is like seeing a project through to the end, or understand what we're getting into.
Yeah.
I think someone that's never painted a 40K army before and doesn't just want to slap chop, airbrush, whatever, get it done in as quick a process as possible.
Or paint like an elite army that's like 10, 15 models.
Right, yes. Or, paint the Mega Gargan army that's like 3 Gargans.
Yeah.
That's the army. If anybody that's going to get into that process would benefit from watching your series, because before they even start, they could maybe set expectations for themselves that will set themselves up for success.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's a big thing, is like, we all crash and burn on projects because we just didn't know what we were getting into, or we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. I mean, we're all guilty of it. And that's why it's so hard to complete a big project, whether it's a single big model or it's a massive army or something else. It's a lot, and it can get away from you, and life can get in the way. And it's like, the bigger the project, the more likelihood that life's going to get in the way.
Right, yeah, the longer the runtime, sure.
Yeah. So I think going into what excites me, my next projects are bite-sized projects that I am giving them opportunities to become something bigger. I have, for the longest time, wanted to do orcs. And I was like, I really like 40K orcs, but I also I don't want to just paint the orcs that are out there. And there's been some new ones, whether through Kill Team kits and that kind of stuff. I just really love some of these new orcs.
Yeah, the Spec Op orcs that came in the Krieg Kill Team box. Holy shit, those models rule.
There's so many awesome new 40K orcs, and I'm a big orc fan. And then I recently, when they brought out new Age of Sigmar hard boys, and they're badass models in plate and whatever, and I'm like,
not Swamp Bogglers,
not the Swamp Bogglers. They're like the 40K orcs for Age of Sigmar. They're just like the same proportions, same flat wide face, same kind of thing. But I'm like, I want to make my own. I want to make a combo of these orcs. I want them future orcs, but future orcs that use more big iron panels they fucking strapped to their legs, and they got a big gun, or maybe they got this big nasty wrench, and it just like amalgamation of future, like far future Mad Max orcs. that's what I want to make.
You're telling me the guy that criticizes the Dune world for having swords wants to give his futuristic orcs a giant wrench as a melee weapon?
It's not a melee weapon. They throw the wrench.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I want that. And I've always loved their fucking like dune buggy things.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that just like me kit bashing and trying to put together a couple or maybe even one, start with one and like try to like flesh out my version of a 40K orc with their color scheme and how we use pigments and nastiness and chipping and debris while still having a level of cleanliness that in that style of painting that I still really enjoy.
Yeah, a cleanly executed weathered model.
Yeah.
That it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's a total thing.
Yes. So that just like that gets me really excited of just like jumping into that. And if that turns into like doing some funky ass kit bash of an orc vehicle, then maybe it does, but that's not my commitment from the get-go. Start small with a single idea that excites you and understanding it could grow, and let it go organically. It's like, well, maybe this turns into an entire 40K orc army. Maybe this turns into just a kill team. Maybe this is just a fun project and I look at them on the shelf and I'm happy, and maybe in 6 months I decide to do another one. Don't make it all make or break, and that's what that's my thing.
Yeah,
it's an example of something of like I really want to do this, and
Hundo P.
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And it's like, oh, I don't have anything that's like pressing on my horizon of what I need to be painting next. Like, let's do that. Now's the time.
Yeah,
now's the time to try.
Absolutely. I want to add some more stuff to my Soulblight army. I want to add the big winged bat boys because I want the spearhead done. And that's the last unit I need for the Spearhead. I want to play Spearhead. Spearhead. And I also want to finish up I have 4 new Blood Knights that I haven't painted yet. I have the one that I painted at Vince's house, not this last time, but the time before that. And I want to paint up the other 4. And then I want to paint up the new mounted Vampire Lord whenever he comes out. I don't think he's out yet. I've seen the leaks.
Yeah,
mounted Vampire Lord, and also of the Dragon Boy. I don't know if I want to paint another Dragon Boy, okay, but I do want to paint the mounted fucking character.
Good news: this dragon is not all bullshit bones.
That's good.
This is a lot of monster flesh. Bad news is Scott's scared of monster flesh.
I am scared of monster flesh.
That's an exciting reason in and of itself to do it.
Yeah, something new,
right? Well, yeah, and it's like that's a story to tell because we all feel that way in something or some aspect of miniature painting. That's a good story to tell, and you get to have that badass, scary ass zombie dragon thing done.
I know, yeah, and I just want the army to get bigger and bigger. Like I think the most exciting part about army painting for me is that I genuinely love vampires. I genuinely love Dark Eldar and what they stand for, and Greyjoy, and like I love the theming, and these armies will stay with me until I die. Like, I mean, maybe I can't say that, but they're at least 20 more years, and over those 20 years, they're only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm just excited about thinking about like when I am 60, how big is my vampire army going to be? I'm going to slowly add things to it. And right now I'm in a period of doing all Dark Eldar, but I can't wait to get back to those vampires and just make the army even bigger.
Yeah.
I remember like in White Dwarf magazines, they would feature like someone else. Like they'd bring their army in and take pictures of it. And like they're so big. They've painted every single model in that particular range, in their specific scheme. And it's just like, holy shit. It looks so fucking cool.
Yeah, we call that the mini war gamification of armies, because that's their shtick now. They do that all the time. Where
what do you mean?
They just have big pictures of people's full collections and stuff.
Who has this?
At mini war gaming.
Oh,
they have they've shown all the chaos models that Dave has.
Oh,
and they've done the same thing with the orc stuff. And then when they have somebody come in with a big collection, they take big pictures. That's what I think of because I see those.
They have those subjects, yeah. Where they'll like feature a guest with an insane collection.
They just want to show one big picture with a bazillion models. That's really cool.
But I want to see it with like a castle backdrop and like a moonlit sky and like graveyards and. Like an army display board, essentially.
Yeah,
that'd be so fucking rad.
Yeah, I had just now when you're describing that a twinge of jealousy that I did not have as much of a cool ass undead army painted as you do.
You have a cool ass undead army painted.
No, I don't. Boner boys don't count. They're not cool. So like Gravelords are what's cool.
You busted your fucking nut on the boners before they came out. You were like undead. Oh my god, I need to. And then the juice was loose.
I wanted it so badly to happen, to have a badass army.
I remember.
And then I had the rose tinted glasses on. That I'm like, this is a cool undead army. Spoiler, it was not. They're not cool.
They're kind of like the Egyptian boys. What are they called?
Tomb Kings?
They're kind of like the Tomb Kings of AOS, you know?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not bad. They're just like, they're so samey same. And that's the best thing about fucking undead
zombies.
stuff.
You got ghosts. You got skeletons. You got vampires. You got direwolves. You got fucking fellbats. You got dragons, bro.
You got necromancers.
You got necromancers. You got white lords. Holy shit. It doesn't stop. Yeah. It's amazing. It's so amazing.
And they keep coming up with more. I thought like they were like, they did the big Soul Blight thing, and then they're just going to go other places, and they're like, oh no, we got more coming. And I'm like, oh shit, mistakes.
Here's a sick Warcry band. Here's a sick Underworlds band. It's like, oh, there's so much. There's so much juicy vampire content.
Yeah, I do want to finish. You mentioned the Spearhead. I want to also finish my Skaven one. I'm not far away from that.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I have to finish up a couple, I think 1.5 rat ogres, and then like 10 clan rats, maybe not even 10, 8 clan rats, and then I'm done with my Spearhead.
Nice.
Problem is, I went like 85% ball sack on that army in terms of like my painting quality.
Yeah.
And so every time it's any more models, I'm like, luckily I used my I have on that what the fuck was that website? I keep on saying Miro board, but it's not Miro.
Oh, Millinote.
Millinote. I have all my Millinote boards that have all my recipes for all that. So I'm like, oh, I didn't have to keep that all in my brain. Nice. I have that. I could just reference all of that for the different color combinations I did for different kinds of rat fur and skin. And then like, here's the steps that I did for all that other stuff. So I'm like, oh, that offloads so much. And that is something I did not really consider because I've never been a person that writes a bunch of shit down, especially for a big project. I'm like, it is so much more freeing to catalog your colors and your steps, even if it's just basically in the paints you used, to take off the pressure of needing to finish it all, like even if it's spread out over time, before moving on to something else. So I'm like, all the things I need to know exist on this Millinote board. And so I can step away from it, and I'm confident I can come back to it, and I won't miss a beat for these ones to look like the other ones. And that feels really good. It's something I had never thought about before, or something I never really was like, it's not a big deal. It absolutely became a big deal to me. So having some kind of a catalog, whether electronic or even just in a notebook, is like.
Have you started cataloging your other paint jobs?
I cataloged a bunch of the steps for my Golden Demon dude. Like the steps that I did, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to have to go back in and touch things up, or I'm going to have to build off of this with another transition, I need to know what the other steps were. Oftentimes my patrons will ask for recipes on stuff, and I'm like, well, I can just get you the recipes on this, and that'll do that. So, of course, I didn't do that for the stones inside of that base, and then I had people asking me for the recipes for that. I was like, fuck!
The stones inside of the base that get cast with green LEDs?
The one specifically, all these rocks that are falling out.
Okay.
There's a 12-step
Man, what kind of person asks about a paint recipe for fucking rocks, bro? Just paint it gray, brown, green, and yellow-ish. Call it a day.
Yeah, there's grays on grays. Yeah, there's a lot of colors that aren't grays in those.
Yeah, I know.
Ugh.
A lot of subtlety.
Subtlety. Yeah, and actually approaching those rocks in like a Cappy bases style, which is like really, like layer-based paint in scratchy lines, and then using glazes, because there's a bunch of stuff that's the darkest on those stones that is actually unpainted black from the primer, that you just don't touch stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you glaze on shadows or you tint the whole thing or whatever, you add more drama or depth to it. And I was like,
that's a Jose Da Vinci and Angel Giralda's move right there. Keep the black around in the primer to act as shadow in a big way.
Yeah.
But also, speaking of Sergio, I was just watching a video of him painting a bust, and he was painting a human male face, a fantasy character, and he started with a base coat of basically Rhinox hide. super dark, warm brown. And then he started painting the next layer of skin tone. And he jumped so far, so fast to a bright color. And he left so much of that dark color behind in like the nose area and like down here and under the nose and like under the eyes. And it was just like, whoa, holy cow. How much of that is actually going to stick around in the final paint job, and how much of that's going to actually be blended out to be smooth? None of it was. It was all still there, and it wasn't blended, and it was like super intense shadows, but it looked fine. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give that a shot. My next male bust that I paint, I'm gonna leave behind some really drastic shadows. Not even trying to do like harsh cast lighting. I'm just gonna leave behind and see what happens. Because when he zoomed out, it looked perfectly fine.
Yeah, those guys that do that a lot, there's like a whole other different level of learning and understanding.
Yes.
And it allows you to have really punchy colors without, to really get those punchy colors established early and often, to not let all the fiddliness like pull away from the drama and the saturation. I think that's a big thing that they get to accomplish with that. You're like, oh, we're not going to like slowly make our way up to pink. It's like, no, we're fucking pinking this shit right now. And you're like, well, that pink is definitely there, as opposed to, it's like, I go at it with 6 steps from now. I'll get up to pink. And you're like, well, now the pink's just this tiny little thing. And there's so many things underneath it. And it was thin paint and you can't, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I really respect the people that push drama.
Yeah.
You can always refine later, but I think it's like pushing drama early, and it's uncomfortable. And you're like, this looks like garbage.
It look like garbage.
It's like painting. It's like painting non-metallic metal. It looks like garbage until it doesn't.
Yeah.
So you have to this level of experience and confidence.
You're also alluding to something else that I would hope you would gain from doing this approach to painting, is that it's faster. It's less laboring over the individual small steps, and you're just making big leaps, and then you're refining later.
I think a lot of that comes from these guys that like they made. I don't know if they still do, but I assume they will in some regard. They made their living to become a pro painter of painting box arts. And you get paid by the box art. So you get paid by the hour. You get paid by the weeks. You don't get a salary.
It's like a contractor job. When you finish the job, you get paid.
Yeah. So you want it as impactful and as strong as quickly as possible. And so they've kind of developed this way to make really impressive like box art quality, display quality pieces in as quick time as possible.
Yeah.
And I do not say that they're like rush jobbing anything.
No.
They have just found the quickest way to get to 80% wow.
Yeah. High impact.
Yeah. Because as we all know, and I'm always fucking reminded, I was reminded again the other day when I'm chatting with Vince on a video call as I'm base coating each of these individual bricks on the top of this base. The thing that takes the longest is the first coat of paint over everything. That takes so long because you have to establish that base color or that mid-tone or whatever, and you need to be clean to not get this color on this color and whatever. And it feels like every successive layer of the onion takes less and less time.
Definitely.
So the quicker you can get to those time-consuming steps, the quicker you can get to the real impactful tweaks and refining things. So
yeah, I feel like everyone thinks that every step of the process needs to be super clean and neat, and it definitely doesn't. Like when I'm base coating something and like the coverage is like 90%, and like where it's not covering, I know I'm gonna add a layer of highlights on top of that. I'm like, I don't care if this base coat is 100% opaque. I'm just gonna move on now, so I don't gotta do layer number fucking 7.
Yeah.
You ever feel that way?
Oh, I feel that way all the time.
Like all that matters is that this deep purple is in the recesses. Everywhere else is getting highlighted. So I'm just gonna move on. I don't care about the opacity.
Yeah, I struggle with that greatly when I'm painting. Certainly when I'm painting for like competition, I'm like
you never know,
single
right?
step. No, it's you're right. You're right, and I'm just like every single step has to be fucking perfect for them to see it at the end. I'm like, no, they're not going to see it at the end. They're going to see the final thing at the end. They're not going to see this thing. They're not going to be able to like, let's rewind the footage to make sure that he perfect coverage. 47 hours ago.
Could you imagine if like Golden Demon just take like a Q-tip and they put it in some ISO and they kind of like start peeling back the layer? Let's see if you got full opacity in all these layers.
Yeah.
That'd be
when
insane.
I get to that, sometimes I have to remind myself, see, WWBKD.
What would
Ben Comets do? Fucking Ben Comets, it reminds me. I can picture painting Buddha videos. I can picture like his videos, and I'm just like, he doesn't give a fuck about the priming layer. He doesn't give a shit about the first couple, like whatever. He's like, you're just making the impact and you're placing the color. It's not about opacity and perfect coverage on everything. It's like, oh, it's good enough for him and his final products can look this amazing. That means that perfection at each step is a folly. Like, do not fall for perfection at each step.
Yeah.
Which I would say one thing that, because we oftentimes we're under time constraints of like getting a project done for a video, like that has helped me grow in more ways in that regard than anything else. And coming up with like fun, impactful ways in your style or trying new styles to get there quicker, because it's like, well, I got to paint this in 2 days or 1 day for a video. How do I really make big impact quickly? And I was like, that's probably not too different of a path that these Spanish display painters went down to get to what they're doing. So.
Yeah, that's undeniable. I've never would have painted as many models as I painted or tried as many things as I tried if I didn't have a YouTube channel that was kind of encouraging that experimentation.
So you, after this big army thing, you're gonna paint some Star Wars. You're gonna maybe finish up the Alien thing.
Mm-hmm. Maybe work on a little bit of some Dune scenario for, like, I don't know, making a scenario for a OPR based game, or that rulebook I bought, Xenos Rampant.
Do they have good models for that? You're gonna find a 3D.
I'm gonna find shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I may even have stuff sculpted for me because the things that I have found, they kind of lack a little bit of detail, not as crispy as I would like them to be, but they are good for like troops and stuff like that. But I want some sexy characters,
bro.
I want some sexy characters.
I'm glad you said that word.
What?
I know exactly what you need to get sculpted. The Navigator from the 80s Dune movie.
The giant fish tank man.
Yeah, vagina face.
He looks like a fucking shrimp. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, he's a big, fleshy shrimp with eyes and a vagina in his face.
God,
that's what you need sculpted. That is it.
No.
Come on.
No.
That is fucking great.
Because I want like a combat scenario. You're not going to have some navigator strolling around in the plains of Arrakis.
he's just blooping through space like.
Yeah. You can just tadpole away. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't touch him.
You can't. He's a tank full of spice.
Goddamn, that spice tank. Is that kind of like a crab boil then?
Kind of.
He's the crab in the whole tank. There's just some corn and potatoes floating in the top of there.
He's just slowly cooking his mind,
I wonder what a crab boil with a navigator in it would taste like. Would that give you the power to see all past, present, and future in all levels of the multiverse?
If you ate a navigator, yeah, definitely.
The navigator crab boil?
I think a navigator is supposed to be a human, but due to their exposure to constant spice in that tank, they start to develop things like weird fins and stuff like that.
How it's described in the book, I just pictured him as like an ugly dude.
Yeah.
Right? An ugly dude. And then I was like, oh my, that's not.
Well, that's Lynch's interpretation of Navigator. I don't think that's necessarily like the actual vision, but yeah.
I like it though. You caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I had seen that movie since I was like 11 years old, so I didn't remember any of it. So I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is great. So now we know what's next on your list is you're making a Navigator mini.
I am not making a Navigator mini. Although, in the newest expansion that I got for Dune Imperium, you can play as a navigator.
Does it look like that one? Does it look like fleshy shrimp?
No, you don't see it. You just see like a big like casket, essentially, with a glass lid. And you kind of see like the silhouette of someone in like the glass casket. So it's kind of more mysterious. It's called like Steersman Yavron or something like that.
Oh, nice.
So he's kind of spooky.
I wonder what his backstory is.
I don't know. But it's cool. It's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, that kind of stuff is definitely what's exciting me. Also, what's very exciting me is I have before, like when I was refabbing my channel, I made a list of like, it was supposed to be 100. I got to like 80 video ideas that I felt were like good ideas for like modern YouTube and were things that I was personally excited about. And I want to make some of those fucking videos. Like there's 80 of them. And I think they're all cool and exciting, and they're all different topics and different stuff. None of them are like specifically Star Wars or Dune or whatever. But I want to get to doing some of those videos instead of just let's see how much Dark Eldar I can paint in 5 days, every single week.
Yeah.
which is good. I like doing that, but I want variety.
So sometimes those video ideas are kind of the basis of something that excited you in the hobby.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
absolutely. I'm not like going to a channel, seeing what format they use that was successful, and then like refabricating it for myself. It's like these are just things that I am like amped on. I think would be cool videos, have good titles and thumbnails that would like translate well, and are just cool topics.
Oh, there's something that I have planned. I totally forgot that this is the you're talking about. Like sometimes you do shit that's not it's not painting video, but still something obviously hobby related, whatever.
Yeah.
I had something that's kind of that, but kind of also painting, and I've been wanting to do it for the longest time. I think I've mentioned it to you before, but I'm finally set up to do it. I think in April or May, where I'm gonna do a video where can you miniature paint while you exercise?
Okay.
Because look, we only have so much free time in our life. We want to be healthy. We want to be around here to hobby for many, many years, for our family, for ourselves, or whatever. And sometimes you got to choose.
Yeah.
I've seen people that I remember very distinctly years ago from a Penny Arcade video where they had built a station where they could play World of Warcraft while they're on the treadmill.
Nice.
And it's like this, just basically just like a giant TV tray that has a computer on it.
Awesome.
And so you can do that. And so I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to see how bad I paint.
I'm reminded of the skit we did with Flex Kwando, the ending montage where we're like doing exercises, but they're also like painting exercises as well at the same time. Yeah, that was great. He puts the tape deck in the tape and he pushes it, and it's just like 80s music.
Yeah, it just slaps the brush out of our hands.
Yeah.
God, that was so good. We need to do another skit. That was so fucking good. Did that video ever do well, or is it like an obscurity thing?
That's probably got like some 40K views, something like that.
No, it deserves to be 4 million. That's such a stupid fun skit.
Yeah, those are definitely fun. Those are like the videos where you get to pretend to be like a filmmaker, and I love behind the scenes and making movies and stuff like that, and so that's always a fun opportunity to get to do that thing.
Yeah, it's a nice little side trek, just like in your hobbies. Sometimes you got to keep it fresh. You got to do something weird.
Absolutely, yes. Do something weird. I love doing things that are weird.
That's like 3D printing like some like fucking a bird and painting the bird for your mom or something. It's like, well, I mean, it uses the kind of skills because I know how to paint stuff, but it's not a miniature per se, but it's a little statue my mom will have in her windowsill, and it's like, oh, I can do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's it. Okay, so I think we got it all figured out. We know what the fuck we're doing with our lives.
Oh, absolutely. I know what I'm doing for sure. I don't know about him.
I don't either. I'm riding a unicycle and painting a miniature, apparently.
I can't wait to fucking see that.
I can't fucking ride a unicycle to begin with. I don't know how we're going to do.
Oh, my God. Yeah. All right. Welcome to the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. We appreciate your ears. If you want to support the podcast, there are several ways to do it. You can do it through Patreon, where you get access to an extended episode where we chat about things like our favorite artists that we've found in the last 2 weeks and the cool things they've painted. We discuss new things we've tried out, like John's electrical situation and my blood splatter situation in this episode. And we also give feedback to one of our goody peepees. All in all, this time it's about 30 minutes of extra content. We also had a bonus Preamble Ramble after the fact. It's a lot of extra goodness if you want to hear more from us. You can also check out our Teespring store, where you can buy merch like t-shirts, sweatpants, cups, all kinds of stuff. You can get that to support the show so we can keep the lights on and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, if we're gonna make those bugs. Oh, that's in the after party.
It is. Yeah.
We talked about bugles, snacks,
and duck biscuits.
and everything's a duck and a biscuit.
Duck and a biscuit. That's what it is.
Duck and a biscuit. Yeah, bugs. Yeah, any bug fans out there? This is really we're gonna try to land this plane. I'm not doing a great job. By the time you see this, you'll have known how Adepticon went, but we'll have our next episode after the live one. So the next one's going to be the top live episode, live from Adepticon 2025. And then we'll recap, and we'll have a whole fun breaking down Adepticon and all sorts of fun stuff in the hobby. That means we're going to see you in a fortnight. Until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.